Hey guys, I'm Alex C.
And I'm Patrick R.
We're here with another TFBTV episode today. It's kind of a cool topic. We've got top 5 service pistols. You'll notice I underlined pistols because a pistol is one firearm with one barrel, integral with one chamber. Now, we could do revolver video.
We could.
That would be a separate video.
It is. It will be.
It will be. I'd like to do that. I'd like to exclude revolvers so that we can focus on revolvers for one of these types of videos. So I'm being pedantic for that reason.
Yeah. It's fine with me.
Anyway, so we've got laid out what we believe are 5 of the most influential service pistols.
And I think we came into agreement on all 5 of these, strangely.
We actually did, yeah, with some good reader input on my top 5 historical pistols video, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyways, let's get to it.
Yeah, I think you're going to start from our left to, I guess, their right.
Yeah, our left to their right. But we'll start out with a pistol we've given a lot of lip service to over this past year with TFBTV. That's going to be the Po8 Luger Pistol. It's hard to do a list about service pistols without mentioning the Luger. Now that's, of course, because the Luger was so influential. It's a refinement of the C93 bore chart pistol. And it was the pistol's Model T moment. It showed people maybe they're onto something with semi-automatic pistols. It was adopted by numerous nations, first in the German Empire. And then even the United States looked at one. There even is the proverbial 45 or the 45 caliber one, noted the $1 million Luger because it once brought that at auction or close to that. All in all, the Lugers are just fantastic. Also, it's worth noting that 9mm is called 9mm Luger because they scaled up the original 7.65 caliber in these, or 30 Luger, excuse me, or whatever you want to call it, and basically made it 9mm Luger, which became one of the most successful military cartridges ever. I mean, we're using it today, actually.
I know. Yeah, I think it's one of the most popular cartridges in America. Yeah,
absolutely. And of course, it was native to the German Empire. This is actually not a service Luger. This is a commercial Luger. I won't tell if you don't. But it's a 1925 BWM commercial gun, and it shoots fantastically.
It does.
We'll link to the segment in the comments below and whatnot. But it shoots very well. It's almost 100 years old, and it still runs like a top.
It does. I don't think we had a single malfunction with it. And you're right. It does. It points very well. It shoots very nicely. The trigger is fabulous on it for something as early in the concept of self-loading pistols.
Absolutely. And normally after this, I would have included the Type 14 Nambu, but Patrick said I was not allowed to do that.
I don't want that within 20 feet of me.
I'm going to link to that video as well.
No, you're not. I'm going to delete that.
But anyway, so the Luger's awesome. If you haven't shot one, find someone who has one and shoot one because it's just one of those guns that you need to shoot.
It is. I mean, and we brought up how well it shot. I was able to split a playing card at, 7 yards with the thing?
Yeah.
I mean, for 100
magazines, too.
Yeah. I mean, for a 100-year-old pistol, that's fabulous.
Absolutely, guys. So the Luger, I mean, it's very well known. It's very famous. But this next one is not as well known to American shooters.
No, it's not.
And that's going to be the Pistolet Automatique de 7mm.65 Ruby.
My American self is just going to refer to it as the Ruby type pistol.
We're just going to call it the Ruby. Yeah,
I like that.
For obvious reasons.
That's good.
Yeah.
This one's actually mine. It was a birthday gift from a close friend of mine. And, there were about 750,000 of these produced. I think it was designed in 1914. And it's chambered in 32 ACP. But when it was designed, it was based off of a pistol that a Spanish manufacturer designed called the Victoria. And they adapted it for police and military use. They actually tried to sell it to the U.S., obviously, we didn't buy it, but
using the ACP cartridge, they probably thought would be an ezy sell. Because,
right.
Automatic pistol, those are popular pistols. It's got a reasonably high capacity magazine. It looks
it does. It's 9 rounds. So I mean 10 total if you go ahead and you top the mag off after you chamber a round. But a problem that these did have is that the safety would become disengaged when pulling it out of a tight holster, and soldiers were shooting themselves. So they fitted a little nub. If you find one of these for sale, and it's got what looks like a little nipple on the side of the frame, or on the side of the slide rather, that's to prevent the holster from disengaging the safety and allowing a soldier to ventilate himself.
Which is always a good thing to prevent.
Well, yes. Yeah. We want to save that for the enemy.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so another cool thing about these is you Google, World War I pictures of the French military. This was their go-to sidearm, and the French fought long and hard in World War I. You can make all the jokes you want to about the French being, the French in World War II and once dropped and everything, but those guys soldiered on Probably the hardest in World War I on our side. On the
yes,
the
you know,
side
I mean,
of the,
if you do some reading into World War I, you'll find that
arguably the greatest military innovators. Almost, you could make the case that they're the greatest military innovators of all time.
yes.
I mean, smokeless powder was a French invention. The gun, the French 75, just amazing things, amazing advances in self-loading firearms and aviation. And the Ruby pistol is, no different. It's a great gun, and it served them very well.
Yeah, but I've shot this quite a bit. I really do enjoy it. Surprisingly, it's very accurate for something that's as old as it is. I don't know exactly when this was made. I know that dating these can be kind of difficult. If one of you know a good resource for that, I'd like to see it. But I've tried to figure it out, and the best I can figure, it's right about 90 years old. But it's very accurate. We took it out, and it's on par with a modern pistol.
Yeah, nice and reliable too, guys. Just a pleasure to shoot. Nice.
Yeah, I do want to note that it was based on a Browning design, the M1903. So that can kind of give you somewhere to, I don't know, something to compare it to. But no, I really do enjoy it, and I'm very grateful that it's my collection. It's one of the best birthday gifts I've ever gotten.
Not a bad birthday gift to give your friends guns and stuff, guys, by the way. So.
But speaking about price, I don't think that they're that expensive.
They're generally not that expensive. I think that you can find one. You can find a really nice one for $300. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for something with a great military cadence to it, then maybe check out a Ruby, or however you'd pronounce this in French.
Yeah.
Maybe someone can learn us on that. My French is atrocious and practically non-existent. But anyways, next we'll get up to a true American classic that I included in my list of the top 5 most historical pistols, the 1911.
Yeah.
I mean, it served America for forever. I mean, they're still technically in service with America and specialized
technically,
units.
Yes. Actually, I think the Marines adopted a variation of it.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. They're still basically one form or another of this gun here is floating around. This is kind of a cool version. This is a Series 80 1991 gun that's more close to the original 1911, not the A1. That's going to mean it's got the straight mainspring housing and other things of that sort. And they shoot great. The fact that Colt is still making these and most people still say it's the best option out there speaks well of the gun.
It does. When compared to a modern military pistol, the capacity's not there, and that's something I got to ding it for. But it did serve America, fabulously for something like 70 years. And
what killed it, what's responsible for its demise a lot is NATO standardization of 9mm. Obviously, they have 9mm 1911s, but America wasn't about to say, okay, let's
do the same
old
thing.
Dated platform in a
right. And we say dated, and I'm sure we're going to catch flack for that, but
it is a dated platform.
Yes, it is.
It's a 100-plus-year-old deal. But
no,
it doesn't mean it's bad.
True. Something I do want to touch on is the grip safety, or not the grip safety, but the mainspring housing. A lot of people really love the 1911 because of its pointability. Initially it was designed with a flat mainspring housing, but the Army decided that they needed the arched mainspring housing to bring it to more of a Luger grip angle.
That's correct.
Which it makes me laugh every time somebody says, "Oh, I don't like Glock because of its grip angle." Well, truth is, the 1911, as the military intended it, has a Glock grip angle.
It's got a very strange. Yeah, it's that's why most people like a raised mainspring housing. I don't really care personally. I'm not one of those guys that has to have is very particular about grip angle to the point where I'd go so far as to change a mainspring housing out, but some people are. So
no, I think I've got one 1911, and it's some bastardized double stack thing that I don't much care for, but hang on to for sentimental reasons. But it's
anyways,
a good gun.
It's important to note that the platform was incredibly revolutionary at the time.
Absolutely.
Imagine where we'd be pistol-wise if it wasn't for Browning's short recoil operation that was found in some of his earlier stuff, but really came to being in the 1911. So yeah, I think it'd be hard to argue that was not a significant service pistol.
If we made a list without it, we'd be wrong.
Everyone, yeah, exactly. So anyways, next up, we got I did a list of top 5 historically significant pistols, and a lot of guys said, well, what about the high power? And I left the high power out because it basically employs a lot of design elements and guns also found on the list. But as a service pistol, it's extremely significant. One thing I noticed that was very wrong is everyone who said, what about the high power, spelled it H-I-G-H power. If you're going to advocate for something, at least spell it right. That's going to be H-I power. You know, so there's that. There's also people saying, what about the high power? It was the first double stack magazine gun.
Also wrong.
That's very wrong. The broom handle actually had a double stack magazine.
Yes.
It was an internal box magazine, but it was a double stack magazine.
But the Schnell Warrior had a detachable magazine, so it would predate this.
The came later in the 30s.
Still predates this, though.
I believe it does, yeah. But anyways, also the Savage guns like the Savage 1907 that was designed in 1905 had a double stack magazine. So this was far from being the first double stack magazine pistol. But I digress. Let's explain why we chose it for this list.
Well, the high power has served soldiers of the Commonwealth for a long time and really well. A lot of guys really, they trust them, they believe in them, and they just work. Absolutely.
There's a reason I keep this gun in my car in case someone decides they need my car more than I do. And I keep it loaded up with hollow points. I got it really cheap as an Israeli surplus police gun. However, immediately when I got it, Patrick, you saw it and you were just like, wow, that's been pretty rough shape.
It was.
Yeah, it was. And, you know, after seeing how, you know, that much police use is going to be rough.
Well, I mean, I've bought police trade-ins, and to be honest, they're all pretty rough.
Yeah. You know, that's expected of any duty gun. So what I did is I had it Cerakoted, and when I first got it, I assumed the trigger would be more like a 1911, being descended from a Browning's design table.
You would think.
But the trigger is completely different than a 1911. When you pull the trigger, there's a small, basically a stick that rises up and tilts a transfer bar that basically pushes the sear down and off the hammer. And there's so many little linkages in that system where it makes the trigger very rough. Not to mention a magazine disconnect. So I knocked out the magazine disconnect. I got a new hammer and a new sear from Cylinder and Slide and a new spring kit. And the trigger is still pretty bad.
It's not my favorite. Yeah. But I mean, it does fit the hand well.
The gun in itself is very ergonomic. This one's obviously modified, and I do enjoy shooting it. I just wish that the trigger was nicer. But for a military pistol, I don't guess it matters. You don't need to be shooting a match, you know, an IPSC match with an off the rack military pistol.
No, and one thing I kind of want to ding this one on is the hammer and safety arrangement. It's not as soldier proof as the M1911 is for a single action gun.
That's true. Of course, with the magazine disconnect, I guess you could drop out the magazine. I hate magazine disconnects.
I do too.
I
think they all need to go away.
But let's realize the significance of the high power being basically the official sidearm of the Commonwealth for all intents and purposes.
Right. I mean, and I know that British Special Forces, even they use this. Here in America, you know, our special forces get specialized pistols, specialized rifles. In, you know, the SAS, I know that they use this for quite a long time.
I'm sure they have other stuff too.
Oh, yeah, I know. I think they use some Sig Sauer stuff, but I know that this was. You know,
I've never been in the SAS, so I'm not 100% sure about that.
I mean, I've read and done some research on it, so
I'm just giving you some crap. Yeah, but anyway,
it's fine. You're paying for lunch later.
We like the high power, and we're gonna definitely put that on the list because of its significance. Great pistol, 13 round capacity, awesome gun. So last but not least, Patrick, why don't you tell us about this, as how you are familiar with it in actual service?
Actually, you know what? When I was in the service, I never even handled one. Well, I handled one once.
Okay, so you did handle one.
Back at that time, during basic training, they weren't training soldiers on the M9, so it was a specialized thing. But this is actually a Beretta 92 FS. And, I mean, honestly, it's my favorite out of the 5.
They're fantastic guns. This was one of my first handguns, actually, and every time Patrick comes over, he's like, man, I really need to buy one of these.
I do.
And I'm always like, why? I mean, most people I know who've been in the military are like, oh, I hate the M9. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, because the one I shot was all rattled and beat up. And I'm like, does that not define, I mean, I've never been in the military, but does that not define all military equipment? Like,
pretty much.
You know, obviously, one of these that's been in the military is going to have seen thousands upon thousands of rounds, but this is not a military gun. This is my personal gun. It doesn't jam. It's a big gun. I will ding it for being giant. I mean, it is a huge gun.
It's a full-size gun.
It's bigger than the high power. It's bigger than the 1911. It's just a huge gun, but as a service gun, you might as well go a little bit bigger for that. I mean, this one has a 18-round magazine in it, but the military ones are going to mostly have 15s, I believe. Which in the 80s, that was respectable.
Right, 15. I mean, I think this is one of the original Wonder 9s.
Yeah. Now they have almost flush fit 20-round mags for these two. But realistically, they're based on the P38 Walther, which would also be, it's an honorable mention for the list.
It is.
As a double action, single action gun, so you can just decock it by rotating that safety lever and then carrying it. So it's a very accurate, very reliable gun, and for those reasons, it made it onto the list. And it's serving the United States military, which is a pretty big organization. And if they chose this, doesn't necessarily mean it's the best option, but it means it was, met their criteria, it met their testing, and at a price point that was affordable. So
yes, I mean, and shooting impressions on this gun, it's really a joy to shoot. You're right, it is a little bit bigger, but it fits my hands well, and it's extremely accurate. I mean, you used to shoot, matches with it.
Yeah, since it was my first pistol, and I first got into pistol shooting, that was my first gun I ever used for competition shooting. So I got really proficient with that gun. And I really probably need to take it out and start shooting it more again, because I enjoy it. I just don't think to grab it very often.
No, I mean, it is a fabulous gun. A lot of people overlook it because of the problems with the military M9s. Yeah. And that's just a result of, overuse and under-maintaining their weapons. But if you get your hands on a good example of it, you'll really be impressed.
Absolutely. Anyways, guys, that covers our list for the top 5 service pistol. At this time, I do want to give a shout out to some sponsors. It's a really good arrangement. We have Ventura Munitions on board with providing some ammo. They saw some of our videos and they said, hey, we'd like to see some more of this and some more of that. So they were really cool and they sent some ammo our way.
Oh, and then I think we have a target manufacturer now as well, that's Grizzly targets.
Which is big news, guys. Now we actually will be able to have GoPros and stuff set up on the targets that Grizzly's sending us and show impacts, maybe do some slow motion stuff. So that's really cool. We'd like to thank those guys. And we'd also like to thank you for watching and hopefully subscribing to TFBTV. Anyways, I'm Alex C.
And I'm Patrick R.
Thanks for watching.